Hey everyone, I hope all of you guys are doing good and staying safe. In the previous video, we saw as to what VPC flow logs was all about and how do we configure VPC flow logs for our respective VPC to monitor all of the traffic. We sent it to a CloudWatch log group destination through a concept of IAM role. In this video, let's take a look at how do you configure VPC flow logs to go to an S3 bucket. So S3 is the storage service of AWS. I hope you guys have gone through the S3 lectures to understand as to what S3 is all about. In this video, I'm just going to show you as to how to configure VPC flow logs to an S3 bucket. So to get started, let's go to the S3 service and create a bucket for VPC flow logs. So I'm going to use the search bar on the top to search for S3, and then I'm going to right click and open it in a new tab. So in the S3 console, you can see I have so many buckets over here. I'm just going to go ahead and create a new bucket. And the bucket is something like a directory or a C drive or a D drive within which you have folders and so on. That's how I would like to imagine it. And bucket names are global and DNS unique. This is something that you would have already seen when you studied the S3 service. And the buckets are regional in scope, whereas the S3 service is global in scope in terms of configuration. So let's call this bucket as my VPC flow logs. And I'm just going to give it as Akshay 2395 just to make it unique. So let's go ahead and scroll down and let's leave all these settings as default and go ahead and click on create bucket. So it says that the bucket should not consist of any uppercase characters. Good to know. So I'm just going to change these to lowercase character. Because it's DNS global and unique, there are some constraints. Let's go ahead and click on create bucket. So it takes a few moments. Yes, my bucket is successfully created right now. Let me scroll down and let me click on my bucket. So let me find this out. So it's my VPC flow logs. And in this bucket, all I need to do is just get the ARN of the bucket. ARN is a unique resource identifier number given to each and every resource on the AWS side of things. So for me to get the ARN of this bucket, all I have to do is click on permissions tab. And I probably have to just scroll down to get the ARN of this bucket, I believe. Let's see, probably not over here. Probably under the properties tab. Yeah, so this is where I have the ARN of my bucket. So let me copy this ARN and go back to my VPC console. So when I go to my VPC console, go back to my VPC and click on my VPC and click on flow logs from the bottom. I can go ahead and create a flow log to store all of my network traffic into the S3 bucket as well as the CloudWatch log group. So let's go ahead and give this a name, my VPC flow logs S3. I'm going to store all of the traffic. I'm going to store it on a 1 minute aggregation interval, the same that we saw with CloudWatch. I'm going to send it to an S3 bucket. I'm going to paste my ARN of my bucket. And you can see over here that a resource-based policy will be added to the target bucket so that the logs of log service of VPC can insert logs into that S3 bucket by putting data into that S3 bucket or uploading objects into that S3 bucket. So for that, in terms of authorization and permissions, a resource-based policy will automatically be created by AWS for us on that S3 bucket. And in a few moments, we will take a look at what that is once we have configured this. So I'm going to go with the same log format. You can also go with Parquet format if you are working with any data analytics-based tool. You can also enable Hive compatibility S3 prefix if you are using EMR or something like that to go ahead and search for any data within your S3 bucket using Hive compatible tools. These are some additional options that AWS has given you. You can also partition your logs based on time. The recommended is to partition it based on an hour if you have a lot of data. But for right now, I'm fine to just go with 24 hours, which is the default configuration. And let me go ahead and create this flow log. So right now, this flow log has been created successfully for both the destinations CloudWatch and S3. Let's take a look at the S3 bucket and see what permissions VPC flow log has added to it. So I'm right now in my S3 bucket. I'm under the permissions right now. I scroll down and you can see that there is a beautiful bucket policy, which is a resource-based policy that has been added to this S3 bucket. You can see that the delivery.logs.amazon.com principal can put objects into my S3 bucket and under the partition of /AWS logs /account ID /star. So it would have automatically created an AWS logs folder. It would have automatically created an account number folder within which I would have all of my log files. And we have some conditions over here, which is required to ensure, we have good practice, right? And you can also see that there is one more over here in terms of getting the bucket ACL in terms of permissions. But what we are more concerned about is in regards to just putting all of the VPC flow logs into this specific folder called AWS logs, into a specific folder called the account ID, within which all of your logs are going to reside. So this is the way that you configure VPC flow logs for your S3 bucket to store all of your VPC flow logs into S3. We have now seen a lot in regards to VPC flow logs as to how you store it in CloudWatch logs, as well as in S3. For CloudWatch log, for authorization, you use an IAM role, whereas for S3, in terms of authorization, you use a bucket policy, or also called as a resource policy. So I hope you got a really good idea into VPC flow logs and how do you configure this. In the next few lectures, we will take a look at some more advanced concepts such as VPC endpoints and so on. So I'll catch you in the next video. Have a great day, guys.